In a revelation worthy of a Netflix documentary, Usher has come forward with explosive claims linking Diddy, Sean Combs, and Justin Bieber, exposing long-buried secrets.
I don't know, maybe in another 10 years we can talk about it and I really understand what I was doing. I'm just living in it. I'm literally, kind of being as open as I possibly can to new ideas and how things are done versus how things were done. And I'm trying not to be a person who's so conditioned to my past that I'm not considerate of how things have to be done and are inevitably being done. Mystique is something that is good and bad. Because what I do struggle with now is the fact that I don't feel comfortable doing these kinds of interviews and talking because I don't really know the nature of where it's going to go. But I f with you, so I was like, I'm going to come sit down with you and we're going to have a real conversation. And I'm also, too, going to hopefully, be comfortable enough to be able to be vulnerable and talk about life. And, that's what you see, and then that's who I am. And there's, some judgment that comes with that on the other side. But I don't really get concerned about that. I really am. I'm living my life, and I'm trying to be a great artist, but greater than that, a good person and a human, right? I'm gonna go through flaws, go through ups and downs, and my entire career has, kind of shown you that. Whether I was talking about it in music or just living through things, I've had some really, really tough times, and I've not had anybody to talk to about it. I've not had the opportunity to be able to kind of open up. That's why I really was so excited about this Audibles, because it gave me the opportunity to be able to kind of peel the veil back and allow you to look at where I was mentally.
Tonight, we strip away the glitz and glamour to reveal the dark undercurrents of an industry where mentorship and betrayal intertwine. Even Justin Bieber's mother, Patty Millett, may have sensed the dangers from the start. How did a once revered mentor-mentee bond spiral into a tale of control and exploitation? And what role did Usher, once seen as a guiding force, play in exposing these hidden truths? Stay with us as we uncover shocking revelations, connect pivotal moments, and confront the hard truths about power, accountability, and the real price of fame.
Reed reportedly considered dropping Usher from his label, but when Usher begged him to stay on, Reed sent him to live with Sean Combs in New York for a year to train. And at the time, Combs, who was then known as Puff Daddy, we believe was in his 20s, there were these apparent training sessions, and these training sessions were known as Puffy Flavor Camp. Now, through the years, Usher has spoken about this time in his life with Combs. For example, in 2004, Usher told Rolling Stone that Combs introduced him to essentially sex. He said, quote, "Sex is so hot in the industry, man. There was always girls around. You'd open a door and see somebody doing it or several people in a room having an orgy. You never knew what was going to happen." On the Howard Stern show in 2016, Usher talked about his time with Combs too, saying there was definitely a lot of wild partying, but he doesn't think he was really able to understand what all was going on. And when Howard Stern asked him, would you send your own kids to something like Puffy Flavor Camp, this is what he had to say.
What a life.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
14 years old. You're a dad now. Would you ever send your kid to Puffy Camp?
Hell no.
Usher also spoke with People magazine back in February, saying some of the most valuable lessons I could ever learn as an entrepreneur were picked up when I spent that time in New York with him. This unwavering desire to create and make certain that your creative ideas are executed.
Now, Justin, like I just said, is in the headlines a bit. There's some people who are saying he's really having a tough time these days. He's having maybe even a breakdown. They see some different behavior from him. What do you say?
It's crazy the timing of all this because we've had these shows booked, for a couple of weeks for me to come on here and talk about Crescendo.
Yeah.
And, we couldn't have predicted all this stuff that just happened in the media. So, I really don't know what to say.
Are you worried about him at all?
I think moms always worry about their children.
Any extra worry now that he's 19 and people are, he's kind of out of the nest a little bit? Any extra worry?
Letting go, it's difficult. So I think that there's always an element of extra worry from parents that when they have to sort of let go a little bit.
I mean, because the thing I always wonder about is like, when you're 19, does your mom supposed to still dictate your friends? Like, do you worry about who he hangs with? Do you like sort of say to him like, I don't want you hanging with this person or that person?
You
don't have to tell me who. I don't need to know who. I'm not going to pry too much. But Unless you really want to tell me. But
Yeah. No, I mean, I try. Of course, I have talks with him. Of course, I have conversations with him about all that kind of stuff. But, you know, as his mom, the rules have changed now that he's
you're a little more hands off.
19. Well, I wouldn't say that. I think it's just different.
Once a dominant force in the music industry, Diddy built an empire that promised fame and fortune, but disturbing allegations continue to cast a shadow over his legacy. Over the years, claims of misconduct have surfaced, and now new revelations are prompting a closer examination of his past. Insiders recall a time when a 15-year-old Justin Bieber spent 48 hours at Diddy's mansion, an experience once celebrated as a career milestone, but now shrouded in concerns of exploitation. As more details unfold, serious questions arise about power, influence, and the darker side of the entertainment industry.
Remember, we are quickly approaching Combs' May 5th trial date, believe it or not. Unbelievable. I didn't think that was going to happen. And remember, this is a trial where he will face charges of racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, transportation to engage in prostitution. That's an important charge we'll talk about in a minute. But in anticipation of that hearing Friday, here are some things that you should know, maybe what we can expect. We don't know for sure, but this is possible what is going to be addressed on Friday. Now, first up, we believe that Sean Combs is going to be officially arraigned on the second superseding indictment at this conference. Now, most likely he will be advised of his rights, the charges, most likely will enter a plea, and what is the most significant difference in this new indictment that was filed against him last week on March 6th is really one paragraph. I'm actually going to read you right now part of the government's letter to the court that was filed in conjunction with this superseding indictment, and it reads as follows. The S2 indictment contains no new charged offenses, but includes additional allegations related to the racketeering conspiracy charged in count 1. Specifically, the S2 indictment contains additional allegations as to the means and methods of the racketeering enterprise related to forced labor.
In the book, Porter allegedly recounts discovering and making copies of the sex tapes that Diddy made of himself having sex with young boys that he was managing, including an alleged tape involving an 18-year-old pop star who went on to become a household name. Porter alleges that when she discovered those videotapes of Sean and his sexual encounters in the bedroom in this vault, she made copies of them as protection for herself. Realized that this is a very dangerous situation. I'm going to make copies for protection for myself, and included it as a part of her plan to leave him. But the memoir says that when she watched back the tapes, she was so shocked because there were things, quote, some of the tapes had things I would have never expected. The gay parties are one thing, but the young boys, like the 2 hip-hop stars formerly managed by Diddy and the then 18-year-old pop star, I would have never known. The book publisher is claiming that it was the friends that gave him this thumbnail, the friends that provided this memoir. The friends also provided copies of these alleged sex tapes so that he knew that it was legitimate. And the final entry of the memoir from Kim Porter, before she mysteriously got pneumonia and didn't survive it as a 47-year-old, is her dramatically telling her friends, quote, he got me, and then calling 911.
Navigating the complex world of power and influence, Usher found himself both a mentor and a witness. Having been exposed to Diddy's circle early in his own career, he gained a rare insight into the stark contrast between the industry's dazzling facade and the troubling truths lurking behind the scenes. Former associate Freddie P has been especially vocal, alleging that Bieber's experience was nothing like the supportive mentorship he was promised. Instead, he claims the young artist was thrust into an environment where inappropriate behavior was normalized, leaving him vulnerable to manipulation and control.
So I heard it last night, and it was something about, he said he was standing at a table. They say the shirt that he wore to the VMA say something about God is great. But in the video, they got pictures of him standing in the background while a woman is being sexually pleased, but she under the influence. And they say it's white substance on her nose. You can clearly see that. And they saying in another video, they have him and an A-list, a young male, having sex. And it was an alleged allegations that it was being a tape was being shopped around with him and a young male. I'm not accusing nobody, but if you look at the way Justin Bieber look at Puffy, he hates that nigga. He hates that nigga. That man's face ain't just dropped soon as he wanted to go get a wife. That man's whole fucking face, that's some medical. That man young and healthy, man. But he terrified. You remember when I said a lot of people happy you locked up right now, Puff? He's one of them. That's why I'm speaking. He's one of them. One of the people that you terrified who couldn't get from under your claw. That's why Puffy trying to help you get back out here. He know. These bitches want to see me fall. They want to see this. They been waiting on this. He know how many people been waiting on this. His kids know. They feeling it. Nobody calling. Nobody trying to. You know what I'm saying? They were all the people that was trying to be my friends. So infatuated with a child that wasn't yours. Were you grooming that little boy? I don't even want to start those conversations because that's not your child. You know what I'm saying? And for you to keep him that close, it's like you kept him that close because he might got your secrets because he's not your child. So if he's not your child and you that type of person with that type of character, you don't mind actually doing it to him when he finally reaches a certain age because he's not yours. And you know in your mind he's not yours. And now you keep him real close to you. You make sure he don't go to his daddy. Why? You make sure he's separated with him and you provide him with everything he wants. Why? You got one of them little Michael Jackson secrets. He got one of them secrets that he can't tell nobody because his legacy, his manhood gonna be, and not only that, his brother no gonna look at him crazy. Only Puffy know, only God and Puffy. Puffy, right? I don't know. All I'm gonna say is, I don't know.
I'll be sure, son.
All I'm gonna say is, who's infatuated with another man's son now, like that? Like you guess that seemed like grooming to me. I got, oh, that's his daughter's brothers. Get the fuck out of here, huh? Plenty of daughters got brothers. Go show one man that do it.
The controversy takes a darker turn with explosive claims from industry veteran Suge Knight, whose own storied past lends gravity to his allegations. Knight asserts that Diddy's actions weren't isolated but rather part of a larger system of control and exploitation deeply embedded within the music industry. Whispers have even linked influential figures like Clive Davis, Russell Simmons, and Andrew Harrell to this hidden network, widening the scope of the scandal. While no formal charges have been filed against these executives, their alleged connections, whether direct or indirect, cast an even more unsettling shadow over an already complex narrative.
One person that knows what's the saddest thing in the world is what they did to Justin Bieber.
What was that?
That's sad.
What'd they do to him? Because there's a lot of speculation out there, but nobody. I mean, I've heard things, but what did they really do to him?
They had sex with him
when he was a kid.
I hate to say that. I hate to say that because I really like Justin Bieber. I feel bad for Justin Bieber, and this is when it happened. If Justin Bieber came from a wealthy family. Justin Bieber pretty much came from a poor family, but the young man was so talented, and he could have been bigger than Michael Jackson. But the question of the drugs and the stuff he allowed these grown men to do to this little boy is unhealthy and it's fucked up. No grown men supposed to be getting high and doing drugs and drinking with a kid.
Hey, Suge, you know, yeah, Justin Bieber has been getting this out in different ways. You know, you could see it in his music and just what he's been trying to say without saying it. So, I mean, I think everybody knows what you just stated to be true.
I mean, you had grown men who take Justin Bieber. A grown man take Justin Bieber when he was young. To a romantic vacation, showing pictures on the Instagram with no women, nobody else but a grown, successful man and this little kid. Usher spent the night and him and Puffy be in the same bed to do an album. They never did one song they put out at that time. On top of that, when I met Usher, I came on one time, I'm speaking to the guy because he got good songs. That's out of respect. Right, young black man. This dude rolled his eyes at me. And so somebody came over and the camera said, Suge, you know, don't have one of your guys do nothing to him. He's a good young man, but him and Puffy got a thing. He a thing. He said, he gave me a look like, you know. And I thought about it. The way he rolled his eyes at me, it wasn't like somebody homie rolled it. It was like I beat up somebody's man. Like I beat his, he just, like somebody to roll their eyes, like you beat my boyfriend up. I ain't speaking to you.
Really?
One of those, right? Yeah, for sure. And the crazy thing about it is like, Leslie, his mother, and everybody else said the same thing. Well, it was wrong, but if we go and get Puffy in trouble behind that, Usher wouldn't be Usher. He'd be known as the guy who got molested by Puffy, and they didn't want that. They
For
wanted
Justin
money.
Bieber, whose path to global stardom was shaped by early ties to Diddy and Usher, these revelations hit uncomfortably close. What once seemed like a career-defining opportunity is now overshadowed by disturbing allegations. As Diddy's legal troubles intensify and the industry scrambles to respond, Bieber has reportedly been advised to distance himself from the growing scandal. His silence is telling, hinting at an internal struggle as he reconciles the bright promise of fame with the darker realities that may have been lurking beneath the surface.
Justin Bieber and Sean Diddy Combs have a lot of history in the industry together. The pop star has no interest in revisiting it in the wake of the disturbing allegations against his former mentor and friend. According to a source, Bieber wants nothing to do with the disgraced rapper and is looking out for his own well-being amid the fallout from the federal sex crimes charges against Diddy. Bieber wants to protect himself, the insider said, claiming that the singer has been told that it's in his best interest to be removed from the scandal. The source remarked, Justin has been advised to stay as far away as possible from anything and everything related to Diddy. A separate source touched on the mental toll this situation has taken on Justin, who recently welcomed his first child with wife Hailey Bieber. They said, Justin is in a hard place mentally right now. It's been challenging for the two-time Grammy winner to learn about the accusations against Diddy, whom he's known since he was 15. He has such a history with Diddy, and the allegations against him have been hard to process. One thing keeping the Love Yourself singer calm amid the chaos is being a father to son Jack Blues, who was born in August. The source explained Justin is thrilled to be a dad and that it's something he's wanted for years. In fact, the insider claimed his happiness being a dad has outweighed his anxiety about
Amidst
Diddy.
the growing controversy, Justin Bieber's mother, Patty Millette, finds herself at the center of renewed scrutiny. Her story, marked by early struggles and tough decisions, adds a deeply personal layer to the unfolding scandal. With the best intentions, she signed Bieber's first record deal when he was still just a child, unaware of the hidden dangers lurking within the industry. While her goal was to secure a brighter future for her son, some now wonder if she ever suspected that the glittering promise of success came with unseen and unsettling risks.
You know, when you're in this industry and you can't believe most of what you
a lot of
read.
it's made up, isn't it? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's tough, but you know, he's held his head high and handled some situations really well.
Justin Bieber's mother, Patty Millette, has recently faced criticism for allowing her son to party with Sean Diddy Combs during his teens. A source close to Justin spilled to the Daily Mail, the singer should never have been allowed to party with Diddy or anyone else when he was a teen. The source claimed Justin was thrown to the wolves by his mother and father, Jeremy Bieber, who split with Patty a few months after the singer's birth. However, another insider noted, there is no evidence to suggest Justin's parents knew about Diddy's alleged criminal activity at the time.
Being a teen parent was one of the hardest things that I ever had to do. And I remember recently going back to visit the pregnancy home that I lived at the whole time that I was pregnant with my son. And seeing the girls, and they just had so many questions. And one of the questions was, how am I going to do this? What do I have to offer? You know, they didn't have anything. And I remember saying, you have love. You look at all these different countries all over the world where they have nothing, and they are some of the happiest people in the world. You know, you have some families that have everything, and they have some of the most miserable kids in the world because they don't value love as the most important thing. And so I think that's really important, is to really encourage teens to really love their kids and know that that's enough. I also, want to encourage teen moms to really utilize the resources available to them. There's so many amazing programs. There's even groups that you can get, support groups that you can join, and things that you can do to really be the best mom you can.
As these revelations come to light, the story shifts into a deeper examination of mentorship tainted by exploitation, where trust gives way to control. Usher's disclosures have ignited a conversation that dismantles the illusion of success being purely about talent and ambition. With each new detail, we are forced to confront unsettling questions about power, accountability, and the hidden costs of fame. This isn't just another scandal, it's the exposure of a long-buried chapter in music history. In the end, the true price of fame is often paid in silence, pain, and betrayal.
Your things are your things, my things are mine. I have something I'm passionate about. I need your support, I need your help. I want to get counsel. But those kinds of boundaries established, I think hopefully going to, make this a more sustainable relationship. This is my third one.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to make certain that I don't take this ring off.
Yeah, I know that's right. Amen. I love that. And I love that it is a balance in that regard because, hey, sometimes it's difficult when the person doesn't know anything about what you do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think for me, it was always difficult to figure out, do I want to date somebody that's in the industry and that knows what's going on? Or does that not give me enough of a way to be outside of the industry enough? You know how that is as an entertainer.
You don't want that.
It's like you don't want the other one.
You don't want that. You don't want somebody who's oblivious.
Really?
Yeah. You want somebody who does understand who you are and knows the dynamic that comes with it, because there's going to be times where it becomes complicated and you're going to need them to get it and create balance. If they're ration.
Doesn't it feel too Hollywood sometimes?
Hollywood, because I understand who I'm dating and I know what I got myself into before I started. Nah, I think if you want to live that life, you can, but at some point, she or he will feel like, oh, I'm not included. I don't understand. Oh, you know what? You're right. I don't understand. I don't work in your world.
I heard about some music executive from the industry back in Harlem. I heard it from some music executives back in Harlem. And I'm not going to speak on their name. They doing programs and everything like that, and they may be doing something. They may speak on it themselves. But I heard it from some music executives.
Where did you hear it?
Bro, you know how people be talking, and we was around some people, something like that, and then some people might say, yo, I don't F with that dude. And at the time, I didn't know who the F Usher was. You know what I'm saying? It was one of those type of situations. And one probably say, yo, man, I don't F with them niggas. I'm getting out that industry and everything like that. Puff sent this little kid to the hospital. How he sent him to the hospital? Man, nigga was bleeding from the butt. And that's what was said. But I didn't even have a name for the kid at the time. Then you heard, and that's what happened.
With these shocking revelations, the music industry stands at a crossroads. Usher's bold expose has shattered long-held illusions, exposing the deeper truths behind Diddy's empire and its impact on stars like Justin Bieber. What was once concealed in whispers and speculation now demands accountability, forcing an industry steeped in secrecy to finally face the truth.
Well, they say you evolve or you evaporate. 1. 2, chaos always leads to some perspective. Whether you choose to live in that chaos, it's up to you. But it is a necessity. It is necessary in order to build. As you said, every lawyer wins a case, but then he's got to go pick up another one. Every person has a grand moment, and then they're going to fall again to get back up. Every team can win a championship. They're going to have to start all over next year. So it's like, that is kind of the practice of what music became to me. So I did use it as an outlet to some extent, but no, I still want more. I want to have more opportunities to be able to share, some perspective.
That's what we need. That's what we need. I'm really glad that you was willing to talk to me too. Like, I really appreciate it.
I guess getting to the other side of successful moments allow me to be able to give some perspective. I've lived in my suffering long enough to be able to write about those songs. Imagine being able to make an album where I can talk to you about the other side. I can talk to you about the journey of, I completely went to the bottom of this thing that you were so caught up in, and it was no longer about a superficial feeling. It was about something that mattered. And then I got myself into a better mental state, and then I moved forward, and here's the things that came to me as opposed to me trying to go after it. to be able to share that would be valuable. Who knows? It could be a book, could be another Audible.
I mentioned that earlier, that he said about Stevie J. The Usher part, that's a touchy situation, man. You know what I'm saying? Because I had a certain feeling, and I felt a certain way when Usher got on Shay Shay, and I don't mean to mention other people's platforms, but he got on Shay Shay and he mentioned how great and how good Puff taught him and everything. You know what I'm saying? About the business, right? I know, and people know, that was around that in that time that Puff and Usher did have a situation. And that situation led Usher to the hospital. Now I let Usher explain that to y'all. I let Usher tell that story. But how dare you say a man that groomed you, you gonna give him a pass? Bro, you know I know.
As the line between mentorship and exploitation grows increasingly blurred, the responsibility falls on those who once vowed to guide and protect young talent. Usher's revelations, coupled with insider testimonies and Justin Bieber's painful experiences, have sparked a conversation that transcends scandal. This is more than just another controversy. It is a call for transparency, justice, and a critical reassessment of how power is wielded in the relentless pursuit of fame.
Necessarily clear that there is, which Usher can continue to hope for in that regard. However, because they get to cast such a wide net in charging him, they're charging Puff Daddy with a conspiracy. And so as part of that, they can use things that they didn't prosecute because they ran out of time. They didn't prosecute for any of a number of reasons. They can put them all in together and mix them all up, and that gives you your conspiracy. So if Usher witnessed things, and they could go back 20 years, they could go back a long time. If he witnessed things, if he was part of things, all of that can potentially be admissible. And so I see why there was this reaction either by him or his hacker to get rid of some information.
You don't believe it? You don't believe it?
You know, I don't have to figure that out one way or the other, but the irony is crazy. You know what I mean? His hacker's got good timing. Let me just put it to you that way. He's not the one he wasn't named in the indictment, etc.
Right.
But by the way, nobody else was named in the indictment, but it is a conspiracy. And that normally means with or together and others. So he's not totally safe just because of how broad the potential is for things that could go into helping to convict Puff Daddy. You know, and that's true, but sometimes you're not even thinking about whether you're going to be potentially legally wrong. I think that handlers and people that are around artists, and remember, Usher is one of the biggest acts in the world, not just R&B act. And so it would be very easy for somebody on his team to quickly overthink a situation and to be corrected by counsel saying, no, we don't want to do that. And here's why. Because there's so many people probably that rely on him for their livelihood, so many people on his team, and they're very protective about his image. They don't want anything about sex going on or being talked about off stage. He's super sexy, super sensual on stage as part of his act, but that's as part of his act. They don't want to be dealing with situations that lend to criminal liability. So someone over there could have jumped the gun. You couldn't put it past them. And if that had happened, he wouldn't exactly be admitted.
Is Usher finally pulling back the curtain on it all? Could these shocking revelations be the key to exposing Diddy's hidden web of influence? Secrets that even Justin Bieber's mother may have suspected from the start? Or is this just another chapter in a tangled story of power, betrayal, and deception? Stay ahead of every twist in this unfolding saga by liking, subscribing, and turning on notifications, because the truth is coming and you won't want to miss a moment.